There will come a moment when everything you counted on starts to fall apart. The job, the relationship, the plan, the peace. And in that moment, you will feel something deep, a pull to panic, to lash out, to crumble. But I want to challenge you with this. When life feels like it's falling apart, when the weight of everything threatens to crush you, it's tempting to focus on the pain, to replay the moments that hurt, to obsess over the people who let you down or the failures that caught you off guard. That's what most people do. They bleed through their wounds trying to find answers in their suffering. But there's a problem with that. Pain rarely gives direction. It screams, it distracts, it overwhelms, but it doesn't guide. That's why when everything is trying to break you, you have to make a conscious choice to start with your why, not your wounds. Your wounds tell you where you've been hurt. Your why tells you where you're going. And when the pressure rises, only one of those can keep you grounded. The truth is, your why isn't some inspirational quote or a fancy mission statement. It's deeper than that. Your why is the reason you get up in the morning when no one's watching. It's the purpose that fuels your persistence. It's the thing that says, even when it's hard, I'm still moving forward. And here's the thing. Everyone experiences pain. Everyone hits setbacks. Everyone has moments when they feel lost. But not everyone has anchored themselves to a purpose strong enough to hold them together when the storm hits. The difference between people who bend and those who break isn't how much they suffer. It's what they focus on in the middle of that suffering. If you fixate on the wound, you relive it, you become it. But if you return to your why, you remember who you are. You reconnect with the version of you that exists beyond the crisis. Now, starting with your why isn't about ignoring the pain. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about giving your pain a purpose. It's asking yourself, what is this struggle pointing me toward? What does it reveal about what matters most to me? Let's say your dream is to build a life of impact, to help people, to leave a legacy, to create something meaningful. That's your why. But along the way, you'll experience rejection, failure, betrayal. But if you can keep your why in front of you, those same wounds become fuel. They remind you of what you're willing to endure for something that matters. Pain without purpose breaks people. Pain connected to purpose builds them. It doesn't happen instantly. You'll still have days where you doubt everything. You'll still feel the sting of loss, the frustration of delay. But in those moments, your why becomes your compass. And it reminds you that you're not just surviving. You're moving towards something. And that something is bigger than your temporary suffering. You don't need to have every step figured out. You just need a reason that's strong enough to keep walking. Because when the pressure is at its peak, when the noise is deafening and quitting feels like the easiest option, the quiet conviction of a clear purpose can drown out every excuse. It can remind you that you're not doing this for approval or comfort or applause. You're doing this because something inside you refuses to let go of what you believe in. So don't let your wounds become your identity. Let your why become your reminder. Let it steady your hands. Let it lift your head. Let it quiet the chaos. Start with your why, and the wounds will stop feeling like the end of your story. They'll become part of the path that leads you home. Would you like me to expand another keynote or develop this into a short video script format? Staying calm is often misunderstood. People think it's something you either have or you don't. That some are naturally wired for peace while others are born reactive. But that's not true. Calm isn't an accident. It's not luck. It's not some personality trait you inherit. Calm is a discipline. It's something you build, train, and strengthen, just like a muscle. Most people react to life. Something goes wrong and they explode. Someone criticizes them and they defend or attack. Pressure rises and they fall apart. And because this is so common, we've normalized it. We say things like, that's just how I am, or I couldn't help it. But the truth is you can help it if you train yourself to respond differently. The calmest people you know are not calm because life is easy for them. They're calm because they've done the hard work. They've practiced slowing down when everything says speed up. They've learned how to breathe when their instincts say scream. They've conditioned themselves not to be led by the moment, but by their principles. That's what discipline is. It's doing what's right, even when it's not what's natural. It takes repetition. It takes self-awareness. It means catching yourself in the moment you want to lash out and choosing stillness instead. It's not that you don't feel anger or fear or stress. You do, but you don't let those emotions lead. You let them pass through, not take over. Think about it. How many situations in your life have gotten worse because of an impulsive reaction? a message sent in anger, a decision made in panic, a conversation where your ego spoke louder than your values. In hindsight, most of us can see the damage done by reacting too quickly, too emotionally. Calm is the antidote to that. Not silence, not avoidance, discipline. Calm says, I won't let outside chaos create inside chaos. It creates space between stimulus and response, that small but powerful moment where you get to choose. That space is where all your power lives. This doesn't mean being passive. Calm is not the same as doing nothing. Calm is intentional and strategic. It's knowing when to speak and when to wait, when to act and when to hold back. And most importantly, it's being in control of yourself regardless of what you can't control around you. The world will test you, people will test you, circumstances will stretch you, but calm keeps you in alignment. It keeps you anchored. And like any discipline, it requires practice when it's hardest, not when it's convenient. Start small. The next time someone says something that frustrates you, don't respond immediately. Pause, breathe, notice the heat, then let it cool. The more you practice this, the more you'll realize that most things don't deserve a reaction. And the things that do, they deserve a thoughtful one. So in a culture addicted to outrage, calm becomes your advantage. When others are distracted, you're focused. When others are scattered, you're grounded. When others are panicking, you're thinking. That's how leaders are made. Not through control of others, but through control of self. So if you want to stay calm when everything tries to break you, don't wait for peace to show up. Create it. Train for it. Work for it. Because calm isn't something that happens to you, it's something you choose again and again until it becomes who you are. Would you like the next keynote expanded in a similar tone and length? It's easy to believe that the chaos around you has the power to define what happens within you. That if the world is loud, you have to be anxious. If people are cruel, you have to be bitter. If the situation is out of control, you must be too. But that belief gives away your greatest power. The power to protect and direct your inner world. Your environment doesn't dictate your state of mind unless you allow it to. Circumstances can surround you, but they don't have to own you. You can be in the middle of a storm and still carry peace. You can be surrounded by noise and still choose clarity. You can face pressure and still remain steady. That's not denial, that's discipline. It's the refusal to let the external world control your internal one. Too many people live in reaction mode, always waiting for the situation to improve before they allow themselves to feel peace. They say things like, I'll relax when this is over, or I'll be happy when things calm down. But if your peace is always tied to perfect circumstances, you'll rarely experience it. Because the world doesn't slow down. People don't always change. Life doesn't always give you the conditions you want. So the question is, can you build a mindset that isn't shaken by your environment? That starts with boundaries, not just physical ones, but mental and emotional ones. Boundaries that say, I may be in a stressful place, but I won't become a stressed out person. Boundaries that separate who you are from what you're experiencing. You are not your job. You are not your mistake. You are not the argument you had this morning. You are the one who responds to all those things. And how you respond determines whether you remain centered or spiral. One of the greatest shifts in personal growth is realizing that peace isn't something you find, it's something you build. And you build it in silence, in habits, in thoughts. You build it by choosing stillness over reaction. You build it by refusing to absorb the negativity that surrounds you. This doesn't mean you become numb. It doesn't mean you ignore what's happening around you. It means you become aware, so aware that you can observe chaos without becoming part of it. You can acknowledge difficulty without losing your balance. That awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you freedom. Some of the most peaceful people in the world are not those who have the calmest lives. They're the ones who have learned how to protect their energy in the middle of turbulence. They've learned how to pause before they speak, how to breathe before they respond, how to focus inward before reacting outward. That's what makes them steady. You don't have to control your environment to find peace. You just have to stop letting it control you. Your power lies in what you allow in, what thoughts you feed, what emotions you fuel, what stories you believe. And when you take ownership of your inner world, everything changes. You start to move with intention instead of impulse. You start to act from purpose instead of panic. You begin to build a mindset that can walk through fire without burning out. The world will always be loud. It will always have moments of fear, frustration, and uncertainty. But your mind doesn't have to mirror that. You can live in a storm and still carry the quiet strength of someone who knows they are in control of themselves. Protect your peace. Guard your thoughts. Master your inner world. And no matter what happens around you, you'll always know who you are within. Would you like the next keynote expand in the same tone and length? Huh? Pressure has a way of showing up uninvited. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't care about your timing. It simply arrives. Through challenges, expectations, setbacks, and moments when the weight feels too heavy to carry. And in those moments, something profound happens. Your true self begins to emerge. Not the version you present when everything's going smoothly, but the version that shows up when things get hard. That's why pressure isn't your enemy, it's your mirror. It reveals your character, not your weakness. Most people try to avoid pressure. They label it as stress, fear, or unfairness. They see it as something negative, something to escape. But the truth is, pressure doesn't create who you are. It simply exposes who you are when comfort is no longer available. It pulls back the curtain and asks, what are you made of when the excuses run out? Think about the strongest people you admire, the ones who lead with integrity, who remain calm under fire, who inspire others in the darkest moments. They didn't become that way by accident. They were shaped by pressure, sharpened by it. Their character was tested, not in moments of ease, but in moments of resistance. Because pressure isn't just a burden, it's a tool. It shows you where your foundation is strong and where it still needs work. If you panic every time things go wrong, that's not weakness, that's feedback. It's a signal pointing to an area that needs strengthening. You lash out when you're criticized or shut down when plans fall apart. That's not something to hide. It's something to study. What part of you is being revealed? What belief, insecurity, or habit is surfacing under stress? Most people interpret these moments as failure. But the truth is, they're opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to stretch, to refine who you are at your core. You don't need to shame yourself for how you respond under pressure. You need to study it, because that's where the real work begins. Pressure teaches you what no book can. It teaches patience when you want results now. It teaches humility when your pride wants to take over. It teaches clarity when confusion clouds your mind. And most importantly, it teaches responsibility, because under pressure, you can no longer hide behind circumstances. You have to own your choices, your reactions, your attitude. Character isn't built when everything is easy. It's built in the moments when you want to quit but choose to stay, when you want to explode but choose to breathe, when you feel broken but still move forward. That's not weakness. That's resilience in its rawest form. And here's something else most people forget. Pressure doesn't just reveal flaws, it reveals strength. The fact that you're still standing, still trying, still showing up, that says something. It means there's a part of you that refuses to give in even when everything around you says to stop. That's character. You don't need to be perfect under pressure, you just need to be honest. Honest enough to see what's inside. Brave enough to confront it, and committed enough to keep growing through it. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, don't rush to escape the pressure. Lean into it. Ask it what it's trying to teach you. Use it. Let it refine you, because while comfort may feel good, it rarely shapes you. Pressure, on the other hand, when life becomes overwhelming, when pressure builds and the noise inside your head grows louder than the world outside, it's natural to think the solution is to tough it out alone. We're taught to be strong, to keep it together, to not burden others with our problems. Somewhere along the way, independence became mistaken for strength. But the truth is, we were never meant to carry everything by ourselves. Connection creates calm, not because others can fix our problems, but because they can remind us we're not facing them alone. Human beings are wired for connection. It's not just emotional, it's biological. Our nervous systems regulate through safety and closeness. That means a single conversation with someone who understands can do more for your mental clarity than hours spent trying to figure it out in isolation. Being seen, being heard, being understood. That's what gives the mind permission to breathe again. You don't need someone to have all the answers. You need someone who can sit in the tension with you, who doesn't rush to fix or judge, but simply listens. Someone who says, I get it, and actually means it. That kind of connection disarms panic. It breaks through the noise of your internal doubts and gives you space to calm down, reset, and think clearly. There's a common misconception that strength means silence. That if you're really strong, you won't need anyone. But the strongest people are the ones who know when to reach out, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. They understand that a healthy mind is not built in solitude, it's shaped in relationships, in vulnerability, in honest conversations where ego steps aside and authenticity steps forward. When you try to carry everything alone, your mind becomes an echo chamber. The problem gets louder, your fears get heavier, your self-talk grows darker. But when you talk to someone you trust, they help you reframe the moment. They remind you of what's true, what's possible, and most importantly, who you are beyond the problem. That reminder can be the difference between breaking down and breaking through. Sometimes the most powerful thing someone can say to you is, "Me too." In that moment, your world feels less isolated, less shameful, less heavy. You realize you're not the only one struggling, and that awareness in itself is calming. Connection is not about people solving your problems. It's about people standing beside you while you face them. It's in those moments of connection, even brief ones, that the mind begins to slow down, anxiety eases, thoughts become more grounded, you feel safer, more seen, more centered, and from that place, better decisions can be made, clearer thinking becomes possible. You don't just survive the moment, you navigate it with intention. Connection is a form of regulation. It helps reset your emotional state, but more than that, it reminds you of something essential. You are not alone, and you never have to be. So the next time life feels like too much, don't isolate. Don't put on the mask. Reach out, even if it's just a text, a voice note, a few words like, "Hey, I'm not doing great today." You'll be surprised how much relief that small act can bring. And if you don't have someone like that in your life yet, become that person for someone else. Because when we create space for others to be real, we slowly give ourselves permission to do the same. In the end, calm isn't just created through meditation or silence. Sometimes it's created through a connection, a voice that cuts through the noise and reminds you that everything doesn't have to be carried alone. And would you like me to expand on a final keynote next? Stillness is often misunderstood. People see it as inactivity, laziness, or avoidance. In a world that glorifies hustle, movement, and urgency, stillness can look like you're falling behind. But stillness is not the absence of action, it's the presence of intention. It's not passive, it's deeply strategic. Stillness is what happens when you stop reacting and start observing. When you resist the urge to respond immediately and choose to understand instead. It's the space between impulse and intention where clarity has a chance to emerge. And that space is where your most powerful decisions are made. In high-pressure moments, most people rush. They speak too soon, act too fast, move without direction, and the result? More chaos, more mistakes, more regret. But those who have trained themselves in stillness know better. They understand that calm is not a delay, it's an advantage. It's how you keep control when everything is trying to pull it away from you. Stillness gives you perspective. It allows you to zoom out to see the full picture before you make a move. In moments of tension, it stops you from saying something you'll regret. In moments of confusion, it keeps you from choosing a short-term fix that causes long-term damage. Stillness is the discipline of waiting, not out of fear, but out of respect for the bigger picture. That's why the most strategic leaders, athletes, creators, and thinkers all build stillness into their process. They pause not because they're unsure, but because they know the cost of reckless speed. They understand that every move made in panic is usually the wrong one. So instead, they ground themselves. They listen longer, they breathe deeper, they let emotion pass so that wisdom can speak. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason. It means moving from a place of purpose instead of pressure. That's what makes it strategic. It's not a lack of energy, it's a focused, restrained use of it. But stillness takes strength. Because when you're surrounded by urgency, it takes courage to not be swept up by it. It takes awareness to recognize that action isn't always progress. And it takes confidence to know that waiting doesn't mean weakness, it means control. Stillness is where emotional intelligence is born. It's where self-regulation lives. It's where you pause long enough to ask, is this response aligned with my values? Is this decision rooted in fear or clarity? Am I reacting or responding? That kind of inner check-in only happens when you slow down long enough to hear yourself think. Stillness also creates space for creativity. When your mind isn't constantly running, it starts reflecting, it starts solving. Some of your best ideas will not come when you're pushing, they'll come when you're quiet. Some of your deepest insights will not arrive in noise, they'll rise in stillness. The world will keep spinning fast, deadlines will demand your attention, people will pressure you to decide, to speak, to act, but you don't have to surrender to that speed. You can choose a different rhythm. One that's more intentional, more grounded, more powerful. Stillness isn't something